Your smartphone already knows if you are going to fall into a depressive episode next Tuesday.
Yeah, which is kind of a wild thought to start with.
Right. And it doesn't know this because you logged into some, journaling app and told it how you feel. It knows because yesterday the speed of your typing slowed down by, a fraction of a
Like
second.
it's a few milliseconds, yeah.
Exactly. And your scroll rate through social media shifted from active engagement to this sort of passive, repetitive loop. So, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to pull apart a really fascinating stack of sources. Specifically, it's a daily digest of mid-2026 AI developments. And we want to explore how artificial intelligence has evolved from, a tool you just pick up to this invisible, highly predictive layer that's just woven permanently into the fabric of your life.
Yeah, because we are looking at a fundamental rewiring of the human environment here. I mean, the goal for this deep dive is to get past the surface level novelty.
Right, past the whole, oh, look at this cool new app phase.
Exactly. I want to look at the actual mechanisms driving these developments,
Yeah.
to understand why they matter to your everyday life, how they operate in the background, and what they ultimately mean for human agency moving forward.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I think the best place to start looking at this massive shift is the absolute baseline of the human experience, which is physical survival. Let's talk about the body.
The most fundamental level, yeah.
Right. So the Source Digest highlights this groundbreaking AI tool that uses deep learning algorithms to analyze medical imaging. But the mechanism is what's really wild here. We aren't just talking about, a slight upgrade in screen resolution.
Oh, not at all. I mean, traditional radiology relies really heavily on spatial resolution and, well, the human eye's ability to spot a physical anomaly.
Like a shadow on an X-ray or something?
Yeah, a shadow or a mass that has, already grown large enough to physically obstruct normal tissue.
Yeah.
But the deep learning model highlighted in our sources is doing something entirely different. It utilizes these multi-layered convolutional neural networks to detect really subtle pixel gradients.
Pixel gradients.
Yeah, and microscopic textural features that correlate with early-stage mutagenesis. So it is identifying the mathematical patterns of a malignancy long, long before the mutated cells even cluster into a visible mass.
Oh,
It's essentially finding the whispers of the disease before it even knows how to shout.
the way I'm visualizing this, and tell me if this tracks, is that traditional medical imaging is like looking at a photograph printed on standard low-resolution paper, right? Like you see the obvious subject.
Right, the big shapes.
Yeah. But this new deep learning AI is like applying a hyper-detailed, multi-dimensional filter that suddenly illuminates the invisible ink hiding between the lines.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
It just shows you things the human eye simply was not built to perceive.
What's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the pattern recognition, because the AI is trained on millions of cross-referenced scans, pathological reports, genetic profiles, and because it sees that invisible ink, the implications for patient outcomes are just profound.
Because you catch it earlier.
Exactly. It drastically alters the survival curve because it buys the patient the single most valuable resource in oncology, which is time.
Right.
It allows for hyper-early interventions that are just way less invasive and vastly more effective.
Okay, I hear you saying this saves time and lives, which is obviously incredible. But, if I'm a patient, I think I want my doctor to be the one finding the cancer.
Sure, human connection.
Yeah. So if the AI is doing the detecting so early and accurately, what does this all mean for the traditional doctor? Does the human physician just become like a fleshy delivery mechanism for the algorithm's diagnosis? Does the source material address, the de-skilling of actual physicians?
That's a really common fear,
Yeah.
but the sources actually position this as profound augmentation rather than replacement. The AI is essentially a brute force pattern recognition engine, right? It's functioning at an unfathomable scale to handle the exhausting microscopic data processing. But medicine isn't just data extraction.
Right. There's a whole human element.
Exactly. The human physician is required to contextualize that mathematical risk for an actual human life. I mean, the algorithm flags the invisible anomaly, but the doctor decides how to navigate that risk based on a patient's holistic health, their age, their personal medical philosophy.
So there's still the pilot, essentially.
Yes. The massive shift here is moving healthcare from a fundamentally reactive science, waiting for a symptom to treat, to a deeply proactive one, intercepting the trajectory of a disease before the patient is ever actually in danger.
Predicting the physical future.
Precisely.
And I mean, if math can find a tumor before it casts a shadow, it makes perfect sense that it can find a psychological crash before you even feel sad.
Yes, the mind is next.
Right. The digest details this new machine learning study focused on predicting depressive episodes, and it completely bypasses the traditional therapist's questionnaire.
Because it analyzes patterns in digital behavior instead. It looks at the telemetry of your smartphone usage and your social media activity.
Which is what we mentioned right at the top of the show.
Exactly. And the mechanism involves tracking these micro changes in behavior that we are entirely blind to ourselves.
Like what? What are we missing?
For instance, psychomotor retardation. It's a really common symptom of depression, and it actually physically manifests in keystroke latency.
Wait, literally how fast you type?
Yeah, a 12 millisecond delay in how quickly you type, combined with semantic analysis revealing a shift toward more passive or absolute vocabulary in your text messages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that creates a highly accurate diagnostic signature.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like having a digital check engine light for our brains.
I love that analogy.
Right. The AI synthesizes all these scattered, seemingly mundane digital breadcrumbs into this cohesive behavioral forecast, and it flags a crisis before it escalates. I can absolutely see how that proactive support could be literally life-saving.
Oh, absolutely. It allows mental health professionals to reach out and, deploy resources during that really crucial window before a depressive episode becomes fully debilitating.
Yeah, I'll take your point on the clinical benefits,
Yeah.
but I have to push back on the reality of actually implementing this.
Fair enough.
Because isn't there a razor-thin line between proactive mental health care and just invasive dystopian surveillance? The whole idea of my phone constantly analyzing my emotional state feels incredibly eerie.
It is a lot of access, yes.
Plus, what if it misinterprets my data? Like, what if the algorithm assumes I'm clinically depressed just because I spent my weekend binge-watching 3 seasons of a reality show and ordering takeout?
Well, this raises an important question, and it really is the central friction of integrating this predictive layer into society. The friction between the undeniable benefits of proactive care and, well, the fundamental right to data privacy.
Right, because it needs everything.
It does. For this AI to build an accurate behavioral baseline, it requires a massive ongoing relinquishing of personal data.
Yeah.
It needs access to your screen time, your text cadences, your search history. I mean, the researchers in the study are very focused on ethical deployment in a clinical setting.
Sure, they mean well.
They do. They're aiming to transform mental health management. But you're absolutely right to point out the vulnerability here. Placed in an unregulated environment or, in the hands of an entity whose primary motive isn't your well-being,
That sounds like a nightmare.
the potential for algorithmic misinterpretation and psychological manipulation is severe.
Well, speaking of entities with other motives, those same digital breadcrumbs predicting your mood are already being scooped up by massive commercial entities. Yeah. The digest details a major retail giant integrating AI to enhance both online and completely in-store customer experiences. The commercial application of this predictive engine is just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's a very smooth transition. If an AI can learn the subtle behavioral patterns of an oncoming depressive episode, it can map the micro habits of your household consumption with trivial ease.
Trivial ease, wow.
It's just less complex data. The retail initiative described in the sources uses sensor fusion in physical stores and dwell-time analytics online to curate hyper-personalized recommendations. And it completely streamlines the checkout process.
I'm picturing like a telepathic personal shopper. It knows you're out of coffee before you've even opened the pantry.
Exactly.
Which is incredibly convenient, right? Until it starts automatically overnighting you a tub of ice cream because it noticed your typing speed slowed down and it assumed you were getting dumped.
A slightly tragic convenience, but
Yeah.
yes.
Right. So what does this all mean for the consumer? Is this just a highly sophisticated, optimized way to boost quarterly sales? Or is this actually erasing the boundary between digital convenience and physical everyday life?
Well, while boosting sales is always the baseline of retail, right?
Always.
The actual product being engineered and sold here is the complete elimination of friction. The technology uses edge computing to process your preferences locally and in real time, meaning the environment reacts to you instantly.
So no more browsing aisles aimlessly.
Right. It removes the decision fatigue of choosing between brands, the active cognitive load of remembering what you even need, and the physical act of payment.
Right. You just grab and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The AI learns your routine so flawlessly that shopping transforms. It stops being an active chore you have to block out time for, and it becomes an automated, invisible background process running seamlessly in your life.
Okay, so deep personalization works brilliantly for keeping us continuously consuming.
Definitely.
But the sources show this exact same predictive engine is being applied to how we grow and develop.
Yes, education.
Exactly. The Digest highlights this initiative using AI to tailor learning experiences for students of all ages, basically adapting the entire curriculum to the individual.
Yeah, we are looking at the transition from a traditional factory model of education,
Yeah.
where standard information is delivered at a standard pace to 30 students simultaneously.
The classic classroom.
Right, transitioning from that to a bespoke generative pedagogical model.
Okay, unpack that a little.
Well, the AI assesses a student's individual learning style through continuous data capture. So things like eye tracking to see exactly where they get stuck on a page, or monitoring the real-time execution of a coding problem.
Oh, wow, it's watching how they think.
Yes. And then it dynamically generates customized educational content and feedback based on that specific data.
So if a student is struggling with, say, a physics equation, the AI doesn't just hand them a multiple choice quiz and fail them.
No, not at all.
It instantly rewrites the lesson using visual aids or analogies tailored to their specific cognitive profile, while at the same time letting a student who mastered it fly ahead.
Exactly. And educators are looking at this continuous, individualized assessment as a way to fix massive, systemic inequities.
How so?
Well, it democratizes access to elite, tailored instruction. Regardless of geographical location or school funding, a student receives a curriculum that adapts to their specific hurdles.
Okay, speaking directly to you, the learner tuning into this deep dive today, I have to throw a wrench into this optimized educational utopia.
Let's hear it.
If an algorithm completely customizes my curriculum and it smooths out my reading materials and tailors all my feedback so I never truly hit a wall, do I actually become resilient?
Ah,
Right? If AI completely customizes my curriculum and feedback to my exact learning style, do we lose out on the shared human experience of struggling through the exact same difficult challenge alongside our peers? Because part of learning is dealing with friction.
if we connect this to the bigger picture, the social-emotional component of learning relies heavily on collective struggle, debate, overcoming frustration.
Exact.
And the challenge for educators won't be teaching the mechanics of a subject anymore. I mean, the AI will do that faster and more efficiently than a human ever could.
So what's left for the teachers?
The challenge will be designing physical, collaborative spaces where students take that bespoke knowledge and debate its real-world application. The AI optimizes the cognitive acquisition of data, but the human element is required to build wisdom and resilience.
Okay, it's an incredibly powerful tool, but zooming out on all of this leads to a massive looming problem.
Oh, yeah.
We've mapped out how AI is deeply embedded in the microscopic cells of our physical health, the keystrokes of our mental state, the predictive algorithms of our wallets, and the customized development of our minds.
It's everywhere.
The concentration of data and power required to make this work is astronomical, which absolutely demands a serious conversation about who's actually watching the watchers.
Right. And the final section of our digest covers the recent Global Tech Summit, which was entirely focused on developing robust, ethical frameworks for exactly this reason.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. As these predictive technologies become embedded infrastructure, the experts are calling for international cooperation to establish enforceable standards for transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in AI development.
Because building these life-altering systems without global standards feels like building a massive international highway system with zero agreed-upon traffic laws.
That is exactly what it is.
It's a disaster waiting to happen. But I have to press you on the reality of this enforcement. Transparency and inclusivity sound amazing on a summit stage. But how do we actually enforce international accountability when these algorithms are so incredibly complex? Like, when the deep learning algorithms diagnosing our cancer or determining our educational track are massive black boxes.
You are hitting on the defining regulatory challenge of our era.
It feels impossible.
The reason these systems are often referred to as black boxes is due to the sheer complexity of neural networks. We're talking about models with billions, sometimes trillions, of parameters.
Trillions.
Yes. When the AI diagnoses a malignancy, it isn't following a linear set of human-coded rules. It is finding a mathematical conclusion across some matrix of variables that a human brain literally cannot comprehend simultaneously.
Exactly my point. How do you subpoena a math equation? If a bespoke educational AI discriminatorily tracks a certain demographic of students into lower tier content, how do you hold a trillion parameters accountable?
Well, the experts at the summit propose a multi-layered approach to enforcement, largely because you cannot simply read the AI's mind.
Okay, so what's layer one?
First, it involves rigorous independent auditing of the massive data sets used to train these models, to identify inherent biases before deployment.
Check the data before it learns from it.
Right. And second, it mandates transparency in the deployment architecture itself,
Right.
meaning the organizations using the AI in high-stakes environments like healthcare and education must prove they have human-in-the-loop oversight mechanisms.
Meaning a human is double-checking the final call.
Exactly. Innovation without protection is ultimately a liability. For this highly predictive layer to actually succeed as a transformative force in the present, rather than just a tool of opaque surveillance establishing and enforcing these ethical standards, is the absolute prerequisite for public trust.
Because if the public believes the medical AI is biased, they just won't use it.
No, they'll reject it entirely.
Right. If they think the educational AI is limiting their child's potential based on some hidden metric, they will pull them out of the system.
The technology can be mathematically and scientifically flawless, but without verifiable ethical guardrails, it will fail socially.
Yeah.
The public must trust that this predictive engine is working for their benefit, not just quietly mining them for optimization.
Well, let's pull all of these threads together, because synthesizing this journey reveals a pretty staggering picture of where we are.
It really does.
We started by looking at deep learning models operating at the pixel level, right? Analyzing microscopic gradients to detect cancer long before a doctor's trained eye ever could.
Fundamentally shifting physical medicine from reactive to hyper-proactive.
Exactly. And then we explored how that exact same pattern recognition capability tracks the latency in our keystrokes and the vocabulary of our texts to forecast mental health crises.
Which brought up the massive tension between vital proactive care and invasive behavioral surveillance.
From there, we watched that predictive power map our micro habits to seamlessly anticipate our consumer needs. It eliminates the friction of retail and turns shopping into a background process running on edge computing.
And finally, we saw it applied to human development, shifting from a standardized factory model of education to a bespoke, dynamically generated curriculum designed to fix systemic inequities.
Provided we can maintain our collective human resilience, of course.
Of course.
The takeaway here is that AI is no longer a tool you just pick up when you need it. It is fundamentally acting as an invisible engine of prediction that is reshaping the modern human experience from the inside out.
Absolutely. And as you go about your day after this deep dive, I encourage you to look closely at your own routines.
Yeah, pay attention.
Pay attention to the slight delays in your typing. Take a critical look at how seamlessly your purchases arrive. And, notice the way the digital content you consume adapts to your lingering attention. Try to spot the invisible hand.
It's everywhere.
It is. Notice where AI might already be invisibly anticipating your needs and shaping your choices before you consciously make a decision.
It's a mind-bending exercise once you actually start looking for it. And as you think about how deeply embedded this technology is becoming, I want to leave you with one final, completely new concept to ponder. A thought that builds on everything we've unpacked today about this massive predictive engine. If artificial intelligence eventually perfects its ability to predict our physical illnesses before we even feel a symptom, if it perfectly forecasts our mental health fluctuations before we shed a tear, if it anticipates every consumer desire before we realize we want it and dynamically removes every educational hurdle before we ever trip, will there come a point where its absolute predictive power actually strips away our core sense of human spontaneity?
Wow.
In a future where flawless algorithms constantly anticipate everything we need, will the ultimate luxury simply be the ability to be unpredictable?
That is definitely something to think about.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's been an incredible conversation. We'll be back next time to unpack the next layer.